Good morning. We're back to being up close and personal this week because I want to show you a map in a minute. But this week's parsha is Chukat, which has towards the end of it the war that existed between the nation of Moav and the nation of the Emori, the Emorites as headed by their king Sichon. And just to give you now the geography, we're speaking about the land east of Israel, what is today Jordan. So here you have here you have the Dead Sea. This side you have Israel, and this side you have the area of the Jordan. Now, the way that it was before these wars take place is you have the nations of Ammon and Moav, who are actually cousins of the Jewish people, controlling virtually this entire area. Up to this river of Yavok at the top, down to the river of Arnon in the middle, and even further down into the desert of Moav, right up till the territory of Edom. So again, you have Edom's territory, then you have Moav's territory, then you have Ammon's territory, and then you got the river going at the top. Now, what our parasha describes is actually a blast from the past, going back to what happened many years before the Jewish people come. The nation of the Emorites came in, I'm not sure which direction they came from, but they came and conquered this whole area, virtually the area from Yavok down to Arnon, this whole, you could call it the upper area of our map that we're speaking about, leaving Ammon with a fairly small area, and Moav retreating down to the south. So Moav and Ammon, which are cousin nations, which used to have bordering territories, now are separated by this nation of Sichon, and having conquered over there. This has interesting halachic ramifications for the Jewish people at the time, because Hashem had told them that they are not allowed to make war with Moav or with Ammon. They're not allowed to make war with these descendants of Lot, who were cousins of the Jewish people. They may not go to war with them, and their land is, so to speak, sacrosanct. It's set aside, it's off limits. However, once this land was conquered by the Emorites, it is no longer the land of Ammon and Moab. It's no longer prohibited. So in fact, the Gemara in Gittin uses the expression that Ammon and Moab tuharu b'Sichon. Ammon and Moab were purified through Sichon. What that means is that through Sichon conquering them, the Jewish people were now allowed to conquer Sichon. And so, in this two-step process, the land became available for the Jewish people. And they were able to make that part of their territory, which they do now over this towards the end of this parasha. They begin to conquer this land of Sichon and of Og. Now, the Baruch Shammai, Rabbi Baruch Halevi Epstein, actually tells us that this is hinted to in the verse that we say in the Ki Le'olam Chasdo. We have what our sages call the Hallel Hagadol, the great Hallel, where we have 26 expressions of the goodness and kindness of Hashem. It's Psalm number 136, Hodu LaHashem ki tov, ki le'olam chasdo, Hodu le'elokei Elohim, ki le'olam chasdo, the God of the heavenly powers, le'olam chasdo, and at every stage we say, His kindness endures forever, le'olam chasdo. Now if you look down into about the 10th of these expressions of praise and thanksgiving, we say, he struck down Egypt by killing their firstborn. He took out the Jewish people. He did this with a strong hand. He split the sea. He brought the Jewish people through. He drowned the Egyptians. You see how each stage is expressing a different stage of history. He took the Jewish people through the desert. Then it says, he smote mighty kings, and killed powerful kings. LeSichon melech Amori, Sichon the king of the Emorites, uleOg melech Bashan, and Og the king of Bashan, v'natan artzam lenachala, and he gave their land as an inheritance, nachala liYisrael avdo, an inheritance for his servant Israel. So there seems to be over here 6 verses. He kills the mighty kings, he kills the powerful kings, Sichon the king of the Emori, Og the king of Bashan, gives their land as an inheritance to the Jewish people. 6 different expressions, essentially all telling us the same thing. So you could say, well, there's Sichon and there's Og, so it's two separate ones, and there's the conquering and there is the inheritance. But there still seems to be some tautology over here, because he kills the kings. Sichon, Og, that's certainly repetitious. Gives the land as an inheritance to the Jewish people. That's also repetitious. So why do we need such a lengthy explanation over here? So Rabbi Baruch Halevi Epstein explains it based on this preface that we've given, understanding what was happening in this war that takes place and the consequent halachic ramifications for the Jewish people. He says the first time it talks about killing mighty kings, it is speaking about the king of Moav. Then it's talking about the king of Ammon. In other words, that he destroys the power of Moav and Ammon. And the way he reads it, Lemakeh, the one who kills the mighty kings and smites the mighty kings, Le-Sichon. Now, when it says Le-Sichon, does that mean it's listing? Sichon was one of the mighty kings. That was how we first understood it. No, he says, it means he killed mighty kings for Sichon. U-Le-Og, and for Og. He killed the kings of Ammon and Moav. He destroyed the power of Ammon and Moav for Sichon and for Og. V'natan artzam nachala. He gave the land as an inheritance to Sichon and Og. Why? Nachalali Yisrael Abdo. So that he would eventually give it to the Jewish people. And so within this praise, it's not just a praise of the might of God, but you could call it the strategic insight, the long-term thinking, the planning, God's management of history, which takes place over an extended period of time, and things happen which at the time it could have seemed maybe completely irrelevant to the Jewish people. Maybe, what are these nations going to war? Why is there this war being fought? But actually, in the long term, it was so that Hashem could make this a part of Israel. It's, I think, a very interesting insight, and especially if this is something that we say in our prayers every week. The second thing is that the Torah then records the song, the victory song that Sichon sang, or his minstrels or rulers sang when they took care of when they had taken this area. So it says this is in a chapter. Beg your pardon. Chapter 21, verse number 27. Al kain yomru hamoshlim. Therefore the minstrels say, Bo Cheshbon, come to Cheshbon, which was previously the capital city of Moav. Tibanei v'tikonein ir Sichon. Let it be built and established as the city of Sichon. Ki eish yatsa mecheshbon lehava mikiryat Sichon achlad Moav bale bamot Arnon. The fires come out from Cheshbon, a flame from Sichon's capital, and it has consumed Ar of Moav, the masters of Arnon's altars. So a victory song, a song of praise for Cheshbon for having conquered this area and been victorious and established his kingdom, etc. So the Moshelim, which in a simple sense comes from the word mashal, an analogy. In other words, again, the poets, the minstrels, they say, come and celebrate the victory of Sichon. But our sages in the Gemara Bava Batra say, the fact that the Torah is recording a victory song of a non-Jewish nation, as much as it's got this practical point that I've spoken about, that now this is going to be available for the Jewish people, there's a much deeper message as well, hidden within the words which the Torah chooses to record. When it says, Al ken yomra moshlim bo cheshbon, therefore let the moshlim say, the word a moshel can come from the word mashal, a parable, or the word moshel can mean to rule. Therefore the rulers say, bo cheshbon, let us come to Cheshbon. Cheshbon is the name of the city, but it also means an accounting, to weigh up, a cheshbon, to think about, weigh up the different sides. Therefore the rulers say, come to an accounting. And the Gemara in Bava Batra says, those who rule over their evil inclinations say, let us come and make an accounting of the world. Let us work out how we are supposed to live in the world. Hefsed mitzvah keneged schara, or schara veira keneged hefseda. The loss of a mitzvah against its reward, the reward of an aveira against its loss, of a sin against its lots. And then he says, when you do this, tibanei v'tikonein, you will be built and established. You will be built in this world, you will be established in the next world. So the Mesilat Yesharim, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lutzato, in his famous book, in the 3rd chapter, spends a decent amount of time on this, explaining it. And the basic idea that he says is that this world is a world of darkness, a world of confusion, and essentially you cannot ever truly succeed in life without help from Hashem. It's an interesting perspective because there are different ways to look at it. The Maharal of Prague, for example, says that on human knowledge we can get wherever we can establish good lives in this world. Human intellect gives us all the tools we need to build our lives in this world. What it cannot tell us is how to connect to God and how to build a life beyond this world, how to build our spiritual lives, how to connect to Olam Haba, the world of truth. But for this world it can tell us. The Mesilat Yesharim seems to say no. Even with this world there is so much darkness and confusion, so much subjectivity, so much vested interest, that we can never even really come to completion and fullness in this world without cheshbono shel olam, without understanding the true rewards and the true punishments, the real consequences of our actions, which go far beyond what is visible to our eyes. In other words, we may make decisions and see the consequences, or not see the consequences, not take them into account, and therefore we're going to end up with the wrong decisions and suffering the consequences of those decisions that we've made. And so the advice given by our sages. So this verse, which seems to be a side point in an irrelevant war, can actually teach us a fundamental Torah lesson. If you want to know how to build your life in this world and the next world, bo'u cheshbon, come and make an accounting. Weigh up. Think about the consequence of your actions. Before you make the decision, think, where is this going to take me? What bill am I going to have to pay for it? The Maggid of Dubno says on this point, whatever happens, whatever decision you make, you're going to pay the bill at the end. What am I prepared to pay? What's the bill going to be? How am I going to pay it? Sometimes the bill is very severe and suffering consequences of not willing to do something or doing something that you shouldn't have done. Sometimes the cost is the opportunity cost. Our rabbis tell us that one of the most severe aveirot, one of the most terrible things we can ever do is bittul Torah, is wasting time. That's the opportunity cost. Whatever time you waste, you could have spent in something of real value. And so that's the price that we're going to have to pay for our decisions. But that's for the negative decisions. But think about the reward. Think about all the positivity. Think about it's extra trouble, it's extra effort to do the right thing. But think about where that's going to take you. With that mindset, bo'u cheshbon, let me weigh it up. Let me think about the gain and the loss. And let me really understand it. Not just, again, think about it from a human perspective. But the Torah perspective and the Torah insights can take us so very far. And please God, we'll find ourselves built and established in this world and the next. Shabbat Shalom.